But Brandon, man, hey, I had the pleasure of playing with you in Chicago, and then obviously watched your career, and you did some amazing things on the field. I mean, things that I have never seen anybody else do in person. And so I mean, honored to have
He's just
played
saying
with
this
you. No,
stuff.
it's a true
No,
story.
he's not. I watched you too, bro.
True
Please.
story. Yeah,
Yep.
it's a true story. And I mean, I saw you do stuff when you and Peanut used to go against
Oh,
each other.
man, legendary.
I mean, in Peanut, in terms of a corner, Peanut Tillman, Charles Tillman, the Peanut Punch. I mean, is as tall a corner as you probably get in the
Yep.
league. There's a couple guys that may be a little bit longer, but man, the stuff that y'all used to do, man, I'm like, how do these guys do this, man?
Bro, it was
That was
awesome.
so fun to watch.
It was legendary. Peanut and Champ Bailey. He was one of those guys. You had Vontae Davis. He
Yeah.
was young. I was entering into being a vet. This was my 4th year. I had some legendary battles. Even Darrell Revis towards the end of our careers, and it was the same. It was the same type of approach and the same practices. I mean, Darrell Revis and I shut down practice, but Peanut. The reason why I love going against Peanut is because I wanted to get the best of him every day. He wanted to get the best of me every day. And there was a little bit of like we didn't like each other, right?
Yep.
Like, it wasn't until like halfway through the year when I first got there, it was like, oh, you're actually a cool dude.
Right.
Right? But we used to get after it. And I felt like it made, the practices a little bit more competitive and brought a little bit more juice. But it was awesome.
So what are those practices? I know you were competitive in those practices. What do you think that did to some of the younger guys that were coming up, the rookies that were coming up, watching the 2 best players on the team compete at that level?
It set the example. It trips me out now, and I go to high school football games, my nephew's games, and they'll walk off the field or they're walking in between lines. Like how we grew up, our generation, that wasn't allowed, not by a coach or a veteran player. That's not allowed. So I think setting the tempo and making sure everyone knows this is how it goes. George O'Leary was my college coach, right? So I had some old school, coaching, and I still was in that way where not only did I catch the ball, 5-yard hitch route, but I also finished 20 yards upfield, and then I also jogged all the way back, right? Like there's just a level, there's a standard, and I feel like it's missing a little bit in today's game, but that's what it did for the younger guys. It set the standard. It's how you're supposed to do. Rod Woodson, when I first got in the league, my OG, Rod Woodson was like, young man, like you'll never beat me in gassers. Rod Woodson was in his 12th year. I was in my first year. And he made it his business to never, ever let me win in the gasser. I was faster than Rod. I was stronger than Rod. I was younger than Rod. And he beat me every single offseason, every rep, every gasser.
Man, I right now this game, right? Everything is, and as it should be, right? We've advanced scientifically and understanding the human body, how recovery works, and there's got to be that balance between, okay, hey, look, we've got to dig deeper and we've got to push ourselves to a limit that we couldn't go before.
That's right.
You can't just recover all the time, right?
That's right.
You've got to break down a little bit to become stronger. And Darren talks about it all the time, right? Hearing about the 90s Cowboys practices.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, he talks about, no joke, and everybody says it, but I believe it. In Dallas, they're like practices were way harder than games were.
Jimmy?
Yeah.
Yes, under Jimmy, yeah, absolutely. And
Oh,
it
my
was
goodness.
just, and you know what, I want to go back because we can talk about the history of how hard those practices were, but it speaks to the individual as well, because the same type of mentality that certain individuals, I'm not going to say everybody at practice had this mindset, right, that of I'm going to compete to the highest level.
Right.
But there were certain individuals. I dealt with Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith and the Troy Aikmans and Daryl Johnston. And I say these names, and this is why I say these specific names, is because these are the same guys that when they how they practice in practice, how they played in the games, it's translated to that entrepreneurial side of their life.
Wow.
And that speaks directly to you, too, because you were never afraid. You were always transparent. You said what was on your mind.
Too
you
much.
didn't back away, but you didn't back away. But it's allowed you to take those chances in the business world as well. And there's a reason why I am athlete. And all the things that you're touching right now have exploded because you're not afraid.